problems, because occasionally Sentient Trader will actually find a 3-day cycle that's less than 1 day in length. I know that sounds unusual, but because of the principle of variation, it's possible. The principle of variation specifies that the wavelengths of cycles must vary. So Sentient Trader's nominal model breathes, if you like. Okay, all of those cycles must be able to breathe. They must be able to have variation. Okay, that ranges from 65% to 150%. Okay. The other thing that I would strongly recommend you do in creating your own nominal model is that you don't have 2 cycle wavelengths that have a difference of less than of either greater than 65% or less than 150%. Because then in Sentient Trader terms, that's actually 1 cycle, and you're just defining it twice. So you're going to cause problems. So for instance, I wouldn't recommend that you create a 30-day cycle of exactly 30 days, for instance, and then a 25-day cycle. Okay, those 2 cycles are too close to each other. Sentient Trader allows cycles to breathe according to the principle of variation, and it won't be able to distinguish between a 25-day cycle and a 30-day cycle. Sometimes it'll think it's found a 25-day cycle, sometimes it'll think it's found a 30-day cycle. If you have 2 cycles in your nominal model that are that close to each other, then you must combine them as one and call them the 27-day cycle. Okay? If the cycles can breathe so much, why is the harmonic ratio strictly enforced? Because the harmonic ratio is what everything hangs off, okay, and then it's because of Hurst's cyclic principles. All right. Again, if you take a look at, let me just cancel this. If you go to our online trader manual and read all about the nominal model, okay, that explains the nominal model in great length, and if you read all about Hurst's cyclic theory, here we go. Hurst's cyclic theory. You can read all about the principles. One of these articles. There are lots of articles there. One of those articles explains the 9 principles of Hurst's cyclic theory, and those one of those principles is the principle of nominality. Okay, which is that that all cycles fit into a nominal model. Okay, the other principle is the principle of variation. So Sentient Trader has to work with both of those. In some ways, it's a form of fuzzy logic, if you like. Sentient Trader has to work with a strict harmonic ratio. It doesn't have to be that strict. It allows a little bit of leeway this way or that. But the first thing to get right if you want an analysis to work is to make sure the harmonic ratios are correct, okay, because Sentient Trader hangs everything off there, and then because of the principle of variation, it allows variation in the cycle length. Okay, there are 2 fundamental principles of analysis using Hurst's cyclic theory. There are other cyclic theories that of course allow 25-day cycles and 30-day cycles, okay, but not Hurst's cyclic theory. Hurst's cyclic theory, very clear, okay. Okay, so hopefully that's answered that question. How did you add in the 6-year cycle but still had a 4-year, if I remember? I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll make that workspace available and you can take a look at it. Let me upload it in a moment. I see I missed a question from Mark. What does Sentient Trader utilize in the way of multiple processes, hyper-threading? Is it 32 or 64-bit? Couldn't find this info on the site. Okay. Okay, Mark. Sentient Trader uses the multiple processor, multiple hyper-threading capacity of your computer to its maximum level. Okay, it is a 32-bit application, not a 64-bit application, but you can install it on a 64-bit version of Windows. In fact, this computer I'm working with now has 64. It's a 64-bit computer, and it has a 64-bit version of Windows. Okay, the reason it doesn't specifically perform 64-bit operations is because the benefit and speed turns out not to be that great. We did some initial tests. The benefit of speed is not that great. So it's a 32-bit application which will install and run very well on your 64-bit computer. While I'm speaking, let me just open this workspace so I can upload it. Let me do that in a moment. Sorry, let me finish answering this question. I can't do something and speak at the same time. In terms of multiple processes and hyper-threading and so on and so forth, Sentient Trader requests a thread from Windows for many different aspects of each single analysis. So a single analysis will take place on up to 5 separate threads. Well, actually, it's possible to take place on up to 5 maximum threads per analysis. For a computer that doesn't have that capacity, all that happens is that those threads get queued by Windows, and it works a little bit slower. Okay, so it's not a problem. You don't have to have a multiple quad-core processor in order to run Sentient Trader. If you do have a quad-core processor, then Sentient Trader will work a lot better. Okay. In fact, we've just bought a whole lot of new systems, and they're all quad-core processors because Sentient Trader works really well on quad-core processors, but they don't need to be by any means. You can still, I still have my old favorite machines that I started developing Sentient Trader on that can, that are running Windows XP and that can handle 1 thread at a time. Okay, so our recommendation is minimum 4 gigabytes RAM. That's very important. 4 gigabytes RAM and a multiprocessor if you can. And nowadays you really should stretch to some kind of you bought a quad, so that's great. All right, that's good news. Okay, so Royston's asking about the 6-year cycle. Let me see if I can find. Where is this workspace? It's not there. Of course, I never save all my workspaces in the same place. So if I can quickly find this, Royston, then I will show you the 6-year cycle. Okay, I'll tell you what, Royston, I'm not going to be able to find it now. I've got workspaces all over the place on this computer. I need to sort of access my laptop, which I do most of that work on. But I'll tell you what I'll do is we'll make available a nominal model with a 6-year cycle. Okay, we'll either make it available for download on our website, or I'll put it up in next week's Trader Chat. Okay, I'll do that when I've got a bit of time to find it. Okay. With that, I really must wrap up today's Trader Chat. We've been going on almost an hour and a half. So thank you very much for your time, everybody, and I look forward to seeing you.